Good day, distinguished academics, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Secretary General of AAU, Professor Etienne Ehile, I would like to welcome you to the final day of our University Leadership and Management Workshop, brought to you and sponsored by the Association of African Universities. We began this year bringing the entire session to an end, but we still would want to remind us to have an institutional training which is targeted to your academics or your entire staff, both teaching and unteaching. The AAU has put together some models for you as well, and we are asking that for all of us. We want to just do a few protocols, and so we are asking that can you put into the chat board where you're coming from, your institution, your name, your department, possibly, the position you hold. We want to acknowledge you. Yes, so if we can do that 5 minutes for networking, 5 minutes for just knowing who is here, will be very interesting. Okay, so I want to acknowledge the presence of the Secretary General, Professor Etienne Ehile. Thank you so much, Prof. We know you are very busy, but you always have time to join us. We appreciate your presence. Let me see. We also have the Executive Assistant of, to the Secretary General, Ms. Agnes Apedo. Thank you so much, Ms. Apedo. I can see Adeline as okay. We have Nongosi. He or she is a Director of Transformation, CPUT, South Africa. Thank you for joining us. You'll be consistent from Monday throughout today. Emma from University of Namibia, thank you. You are a senior lecturer at the University of Namibia, UNAMS. Thank you so much for joining us. Komakesh, thank you, Robert, for joining us. Dr. Baliu Demisi, Mester from Ethiopia. That is Addis Ababa University. Another, as we appreciate your presence. Christopher Mensah, Dean, Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology, Whole Technical University. You have been consistent. Thank you. Dr. Alice Mensah, Dean from Accra Technical. Thank you so much. Nandi Dabugat, thank you so much. Joss, we appreciate your presence. Great. Isaac Ajay Boache, Senior Lecturer, Accra Technical University. Thank you so much, Isaac, for joining us. We also would want to remind you that throughout the week, we'll make an announcement for the university pedagogy training that will also be brought to you by Professor Pai Ubanya from the 12th to 16th of April 2021, just right after the Easter break. Or you have colleagues who do not have education background or teaching background, let me say, this is also another opportunity supported in writing business and strategic plans for numerous small firms and organizations in Ghana. Professor Bohini has worked with teams of consultants to develop a wide university entrepreneurship program involved in strategically harnessing entrepreneurial potential of students into viable businesses. That is really great. Professor Bohin again has consulted for international as well as local institutions on business incubators, development, academic industry linkages, capacity building programs for micro, small, and medium enterprises in managing their distressed businesses, and also resource mobilization strategies for wealth creation for sustainable development in African universities. Professor Rosemond, again, over the years, has consulted and written proposals for various small firms to secure funding from the Council of Vocational Technical Education, Convert Skills and Development Fund. And currently, she's working on managing a project on entrepreneurship and sustainable economic development in collaboration between the School of Business, University of Cape Coast, and then also University of Nairobi, and then Bonn-Rhein-Sieg University of Applied Sciences in Germany. She also is a team leader on the European Union supported program on creating business opportunities from electronic waste in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Rosemond is passionate when it comes to entrepreneurship and seeks to develop international relations that lead to mutual benefit of universities as well as industry. With a singular honor, I would like to introduce Professor Rosemond Bohin to take the floor and to take us through the topic, resource mobilization for wealth creation in African universities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kwesi. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope by the end of this workshop, we would have developed our resource mobilization skills. I'll try and see if I can share my screen. Let me go back. Sorry, I'm trying to look for the presentation so that I can share my screen. Yeah. Okay, it looks as if I'm finding it difficult to get the presentation, but I'll still try and work on it. Stop share. Okay. Sorry about that.
You're doing very well. Okay. So the time was, I was even thinking it was Saturday morning, so I handled that.
Okay, I think I will start whilst I try to try and see if I can share my screen. Unfortunately,
do you have Prof's presentation
on the screen? It's just that my laptop is not showing me where the screen is. So I'll let me send it to Kwesi so that Kwesi can share that.
Okay,
let me share. Yeah.
So I think what we can do is that when you share your screen, you will see an extension which says open all windows.
Yes.
When you click on that, all your presentations will show for you to locate the Excel document.
Let me see. Because usually when I'm doing presentations, immediately I go to share screen, I see why I can't find the presentation. Meanwhile, it's open sharing. When I'm able to find it, then I'll do that.
Okay. So Irene, you can just acknowledge the presence of our distinguished participant.
Yes, let her do that whilst I try to find the screen.
That will be very much important. Thank you. Irene, please take over.
All right. Thank you very much. Just a few announcements that we wanted to do. we all know that this training is free, but if you would want a certificate, you send us an email and then we'll send you the particulars on how you would get your certificate. And so it's $35, and then we'll give you all the necessary information that you need. But we would also want to acknowledge the vice chancellors who have been with us ever since we started. We know that you have busy schedules. Okay, yeah, I think Prof is ready with her
Yeah.
presentation. Yes.
Okay, so
Great,
very sorry
great,
about that.
great.
I think
No,
my
it's fine,
computer
Prof.
was taking time to identify the PowerPoint. So once again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this workshop on resource mobilization for sustainable wealth creation for African universities. So the purpose of this 3-hour workshop is just to give you an overview of some of the successful strategies for mobilizing resources for your institution. At the end of the day, I'll try as much as possible to be very, very interactive because, you know, when you are listening to something for about 3 hours, at a point you need to get up and do a little bit of exercises. So I'll try as much as possible and make sure it's practical as much as possible. We'll go into breakout sessions. At a point, if you want to raise your hand, you can raise your hand if you want to make a contribution. I'm using the principles of adult learning. So if you look at workshop objectives of the day, we are looking at resource mobilization, and we want to see the relationship between the strategic plan of our institutions and how we can mobilize resources to be able to achieve the various strategic trusts. Then we'll look at the resource mix. We'll look at networking. We'll talk a little bit about alumni relationships because we know it's one of the ways by which we can mobilize resources. Then, of course, we'll look at how we can even establish businesses. Whilst we do the interaction, a few examples here and there. But we are going to crown it all as to how we can develop a resource mobilization plan, which is very, very important. Sometimes people will think that, okay, this is not my institution, so it's the vice chancellor who is supposed to mobilize resources. But at the end of the day, we'll all realize that we are all supposed to mobilize resources, because when we talk of resources, we are not looking at only fundraising, but we are looking at other types of resources. So I've already indicated how I'm mobilizing resources, and therefore I'm expecting that as we go through the discussions, some of you will share your experiences and ideas that you have when it comes to mobilizing resources. So with my presentation, I've divided it into 4. Although we have 3 hours, I'm going to look at it from 4 different perspectives. With the first one, we are going to look at the components and key drivers of resource mobilization. Why do we have to mobilize resources? Then we'll look at when it comes to resources. Sometimes we don't look at that one. And I'm happy that at a point, Kwesi and Irene decided that they were going to introduce some of the participants so that each and everyone, and they know where you are coming from. Planning a proposal to send to DAAD. And in the proposal, we're supposed to get an expert from one African country. So immediately we mentioned the name. I remember that I had a training program with a colleague from a university in Kenya, and immediately going to use her as a resource person for one of the training programs. So networking is very, very important. Then we'll look at resource mobilization activities. We may be familiar with some of them, but I'm going to introduce some new ones that we can also look at. Then finally, we'll end with looking at how we can develop a resource mobilization plan, and we'll try as much as possible and look at the various steps. At the end, I want us to see if we can develop one for our institutions, and that will be one of the take-home assignments of this workshop. Now I want to ask, what are your expectations? Remember, I indicated that if you want to answer a question, you can raise your hand, and maybe Kwesi will look at the chat, and we need about 1 or 2 people to give us their expectations for this workshop. What are your expectations for this workshop? Maybe it's something you want to learn. There is something specifically you want to know. So what are your expectations? If I can get 1 or 2 people. What are your expectations? If I mention names, because I love doing that. Okay, I've seen Bongani T. Sibanji. Sorry, forgive me if I massacre your name. Forgive me. So what are your expectations? And here I want us to be interactive. So I want us to be, when we are mentioning name, forgive me, I want us to be informal. So I hope you don't mind if I mention your name and just using your first name, and I don't add the professor or anything to it. Bongani, please. What are your expectations? You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Prof. May I greet everybody, colleagues. My expectations, Prof, is to come out of this workshop with all the strategies that I can have, that I can use to raise resources in my institution, Prof.
So you are looking at all the strategies you can use in mobilizing resources. I've seen a hand up. The name is External Funds Office. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you, please.
No, from one of your students, actually, from UCC.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
My name is Jennifer Adalete. I'm currently with Ho Technical University.
Okay.
And I'm in charge of the External Funds Office. So our mandate is basically to locate secure funds from external sources. So
okay.
My objective is that at the end of this, I would learn from you, pick 1 or 2 things, so that I'll do better with the current role that I've been assigned.
Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope by the time we finish, we are going to look at the various areas where we can get resources from. And remember, we are not looking at only funds. We are also looking at resource mobilization. So now, when we are looking at various expectations, we are looking at how we can understand the donor environment.
Of course.
Hello?
Sorry, there are a few expectations in the chat board. With the permission, maybe we could read it quickly.
Okay, so you can read it for me.
Okay, so from Emma would want to learn the strategies of resource mobilization so that she will be able to submit a successful proposal for her university. And then also from would want to better understand comparative methods of resource mobilization. And maybe I'll pick the last one. Okay, Paul, I think these are the 2 ones. Thank you.
Yes, but Mujid hand is up, so maybe Mujid can give us the last one, and then we can.
Mujid,
so Mujid, if you can hear us, kindly go ahead with your expectation.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, Prof.
Mujid, kindly unmute. You are muted again.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Sure.
Hello?
Please. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Prof. Good afternoon, Dr. Kwesi Sam. I'm excited to be with us again today. Mine is just to appreciate Prof for what we have learned through 2 years ago in Rwanda when we came to Kigali. The knowledge we had or we gained from you then is still fresh in my memory. And I want to tell you that as an institution, we use one of the strategies that you taught us then, crowdfunding. It's working like magic in our institution. I appreciate you. I'm saying this because I may not be able to follow the teaching of today to the end, because by 2 o'clock, we are switching to another engagement in our university. So by 2, I had to log out. So that's why I said, let me express myself before the time is up. So, Prof, once again, we are grateful to you as an institution. Also, I'm grateful to you as an individual. God bless you. God bless the organizer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Prof. Bohini.
Okay, so thank you very much, Kwesi. These are the elements. Unfortunately, today we may not be able to, I don't know whether if Kwesi can organize that. Maybe later you can organize a session where we can really go into how to write a proposal, prepare proposals for funding. Today, I just want to introduce you to the various ways by which we can mobilize resources. Maybe next time, if AAU will agree, I'm prepared to do that. Just take them through how to go through the whole proposal development, preparing the law framework that includes the performance indicators, etc. So today, I'll just rush through and see if we will be able to cover some of the activities we do when we are looking at resource mobilization. Now, I am going to ask this question, and I hope each and every one of us has got a paper and a pen with her. We want to ask, when we say resource mobilization activities in your institution, can you let me know, or can you indicate on a sheet of paper, is it a mix of directions? Later at the end of the presentation, that is the last question I'll ask you. So by the time we finish with the discussions, then you'll be able. Mobilization activities is a mix of direction, it's a smooth interchange, or it is a totally unified oneness. So can you jot that on a sheet of paper? And when we get to the end of the discussions, we are going to go back and ask ourselves, and I'm not going to be the judge, you are going to be the judge to decide whether it is a mix of directions, it is a smooth interchange, or it is a totally unified oneness. Okay, so you agree with me that if we look at our current higher educational landscape, there are a lot of things that have influenced the way we are able to get resources. And of course, if you look at what we have in the middle, the COVID-19 pandemic has even exacerbated some of the problems institutions of higher learning are facing. Of course, we know that most, especially those that are public funded, have experienced reduction in government subvention. The government is not bringing in money. Then, of course, if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic, especially those private institutions, that's private universities, of course, if students are not there, they are not going to pay school fees. And so you need money to pay salaries, you need money to pay bills. Then, of course, we know that every organization, or when you talk of organizations, we are all competing for resources. So if you look at the current higher educational landscape now, you agree with me that there are a lot of uncertainties. Even as we sit here now, we are even fortunate in Africa that we've not gone on a third lockdown. But if you go to other European countries, they are on lockdown. And therefore, most of them are trying to see if they can do their teaching and learning online. In Africa, yes, we are trying to also do that. My university is trying to do that. But you agree with me that the internet connectivity sometimes is erratic, and therefore the way we even handle issues online is not as effective as we would have wanted them to be. So if you look at our current higher educational landscape, you see that there are a lot of issues that calls for us looking for new ways of doing things. And one of the things we have to look at when it comes to our higher educational landscape is to how to mobilize resources. And at a point, I'm going to indicate that when we say resource mobilization, we are not looking at only fundraising, but we are also looking at other things. So I want to ask this question. What will you do for your institution if you are given the opportunity, or if you are given $10 million? What will you do for your institution if you are given $10 million? Can someone let me know what you, when you are given $10 million? So can one or two people share with us, if you are given $10 million, what will you do for your institution? Yes, any hand up? $10 million.
Bongani, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. There is a lot that I can do, Prof. Firstly, I would invest, because I believe that once I receive this, I will have to sit down. We have to sit down as an institution and plan very well. And some of it I would invest it for the institution, but some I would invest it in infrastructure.
Okay.
And yes, some I would empower or capacitate the community in the institution, like send people to school with so that they can get the expertise, that the skills and expertise. So I would do a lot. Probably some share with my students there to fund those who need some funding, but mostly I would invest in infrastructure. I know that if I have good infrastructure, that can also bring money, so that I can further expand the activities and the program of the institution. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Bongani. So you see, it is easy. When you get the money, so you see, now we are giving you the money. The next question is, what will you do to get it? The first question was, what will you do for your institution with $10 million? With that one, it is easy, because some do to get it. So Bongani, you told me most of the things you do, you invest, you build infrastructure. So what will you do to get the $10 million?
Well, thank you, Prof. Well, Prof, there is, that one is the part that is very difficult for us, and it's actually, it's not supposed to be difficult, because you need to get something to use it, not just to be given. I would, Prof, of course, invest in, make sure that I establish a good relationship with alumni of the institution.
Yes.
I would, yes, so that whenever they have extra, they will maybe throw some $10 into the institution's account if they have extra. And moreover, Prof, I would, market the institution. I would, yes, I would develop or establish programs that will actually bring income into the institution. And I would, marketing the institution, Prof, will mean the institution is known internationally, and I have international students, and also the infrastructure, I will maintain it in such a way that everybody who may think of a place to rent, to use and pay for that, they will think of my institution, Prof. So I think those are the few collaboration, Prof, research grants from my institution would be one of those things that I would reinforce so that I can bring in money. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. So thank you very much for Bongani. So this is for you to see how far people can go to be able to raise money for their institutions. And that is the former provost for the Washington State University. And he wanted to raise $142,000 because they wanted to establish a honeybee research center on campus. And he agreed to wear a beard of over 12,000 bees to raise funds to be able or mobilize resources. And of course, this time he was able to raise funds. So this is to let you know how far people can go, and especially institutions can go to be able to raise funds to support a worthy cause in their institution. So this was just a brain teaser for you to know that, yes, you need the money, but you need to mobilize resources. And when we are saying mobilizing resources, it is a lot of work. It needs hard work, it needs tenacity, it needs focus. And this is how far this provost, he is a former provost, he's no more the provost, how far he was able to go through this 20-minute ordeal, because he needed to raise $142,000 for the establishment of the new honeybee research center on his campus. So we've looked at what we need, what we have to do, some of the things we have to take into consideration. So now when we say resource mobilization, what do we mean? And I'm saying that we are looking at all activities, and we'll look at some of those activities. You want to secure new and additional. And remember here, we are not looking at financial resources. Resource mobilization is not only looking for funds, but you're also looking for human capital. You're also looking at material and other resources to advance your university's mission. So when we talk of resource mobilization, we are not looking at fundraising. I yesterday or 3 days ago, I had the opportunity to join the presentation, and I realized that there were people, we don't only have vice chancellors, we have registrars. And sometimes some of them may think, okay, I'm not the vice chancellor, so I'm not supposed to mobilize resources. Later, when we come to look at the various types of resources, you see that every person in the organization, especially those at the top, those at the middle, and those at the lower level management, can participation of resources. So when we talk of resource mobilization, we are looking at everything you do, you secure new and additional resources. And it can be any type of resources at all, because at the end of the day, you want to advance the mission of your institution. So when it comes to mobilizing resources, of course, as and when we move on, we are going to talk about something we call strategic priorities. You need to identify your objectives. So what objectives are driving your resource mobilization? You may decide to prepare a plan. You share it with everybody within the organization. That is the agreement and approval. You implement and you monitor and evaluate the whole process. So when we say resource mobilization, we are also not looking at you getting additional and new resources. We are also looking at the ones you have. How are you making a better use of it? Or how are you maximizing the existing resources? And I remember, Bongani, when you were giving me the response, you said if you have an auditorium and you don't use it all the time, you may decide to renovate it so that you can hire it out and make money. So when we talk of resource mobilization, we are not looking at bringing in financial, human, and material resources. We are also asking ourselves, the ones you have, how are you making better use of those resources? So for instance, I've given financial, you have infrastructure, you have human resources, you even have reputation. It is very, very important that your university has got a good reputation. If it has got a good reputation, it is easier for it to be able to get resources from both within and from outside. At a point, I'm going to use Ashasi University as an example. Information is even a resource. Even the structure of your university, your systems, your processes are all examples of resources. Because, for instance, the structure you have, is it so bureaucratic in such a way that when you need something, it takes 100 years for you to be able to get a response? If it takes you 100 years to get a response, then it is not a good structure for you to be able to mobilize resources. So your structure, your systems, your processes, and sometimes your networks, your social networks, your traditional authorities, where your university is cited, the traditional rulers, they are all examples of resources. So you agree with me that when we say resource mobilization, only money. Of course, we need money to be able to do a lot of things, but we are not looking at only money. We are looking at other things that sometimes we may not need money to be able to get access to those resources. So I've established the fact that resource mobilization is not only fundraising. So it means that we need all hands on deck. Everybody will have to contribute to the mobilization of resources in his or her institution. Now, I come back to my question. Why mobilize resources? Why mobilize resources? It is not our duty. It is the duty of the Vice Chancellor. Why mobilize resources? Why mobilize resources? You can raise your hand. Any person, if you want to share, why mobilize resources?
All right, Priscilla, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Why mobilize?
Okay, Bugani.
I think we have to give Bogani a prize.
Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Firstly, I think I need to mobilize resources for my institution for self-sustainability. You as an institution, yes.
So for self-sustainability, what else? What else?
Yes, for two, Prof, is for purposes.
For growth.
Yes.
So you want to sustain your institution, you want to grow?
Yes.
And remember, thank you very much, Bongani. You remember every university has got three main core mandates: teaching, research, and extension. Some people call it outreach, extension services, or community engagement. And you remember that every university will have to meet all these core mandates. And you need resources to be able to do that. So our institutions are supposed to mobilize resources because we are supposed to, of course, teaching and learning. We are supposed to carry out research. We are also supposed to engage with the community. Of course, with these three core mandates, there are various nitty-gritties in terms of what we are expected to do. I'm not going to go through that. And in addition to the role of universities, you agree with me that every university has got a vision and a mission. And with the vision and the mission and the core values, you've got strategic objectives. So at the end of the day, these strategic objectives, which are carved out of the vision and the mission, will have to be achieved. I don't think every university will establish these objectives just because they want to establish them. They want to achieve those objectives, and you need able to do that. So at the end of the day, we are saying that every university has got what we call a strategic priority. And when we say strategic priority, of course, they come from the vision, the mission, the strategic objective. We are looking at areas of growth that are critical to the vision and the mission of your institution. And because of these areas of growth, you want to make sure that these areas grow. That is why you may want to mobilize resources. So when we talk of strategic priorities, we are looking at areas where the university or our universities want to grow. And these things are critical to our vision and mission. And because of that, there is the need for us to be able to mobilize resources so that we'll be able to grow our organizations. And that's what Bongani said, that we want to sustain our institutions and we want to grow. So, Kwesi, I don't know whether we can start with our first breakout session. Can we start with our breakout session? The first
Yes,
one.
bro.
Okay, so we are going to break out into various sections. And at the end of the day, I want you to identify. I know we come from different universities. In addition, we come from different departments. Some are from fundraising, others are registrars, others are deans, others are vice deans. I want you to try and see if you can identify the strategic priorities of your institution, your department, or your unit. And because we are going into breakout sessions, you can decide to just pick one department or unit. And at the end of the day, you let us know the resources you need to be able to achieve these strategic objectives. So it's just 10 minutes because there are a lot of things we have to do. So can we go into our breakout sessions? Yeah.
Hello.
You can just select one person to lead.
Yes, please.
Yes, just select one person to lead. Then after we just have two minutes presentation, then we move on. I think our time is fast spent, unfortunately, but we'll try and make time.
Okay, colleagues, who is prepared to lead? I saw that someone is nominating Dr. David Munyere. David Munyere, are you willing to lead? Hello, colleagues. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yes, I can lead.
Good afternoon.
Hello. The room is closing. I wanted to lead.
You can lead.
You can go ahead and lead.
But there is a message that the break room will close in some seconds.
Yes, I can see that too.
Yeah.
Well, you can just start. I'm sure there will be, I believe there will be an extension of time, maybe a minute.
I believe there will be an extension.
Okay. I think we have to identify the strategic objective. Like for my university, we have different themes where different objectives have different themes with different strategic objectives. The first
Kwesi,
Yes, Irene.
I think that you didn't set enough time for the breakout rooms, so we could even barely discuss anything.
Oh, I think we give 10 minutes.
Yeah, but all the rooms are closed now, and we are back to the main room. So I think I would advise Prof that we do it here, since it's getting difficult for us.
Okay. That's fine. We'll do it. I even just realized that actually I wanted us to do a lot of work, but I realized that if I don't take care, we'll need about 20 hours to be able to go through everything. So I'll try and reduce the breakout sessions, because I also realize that it takes a little bit of time. So because I want people to participate, sometimes I may be tempted to mention your name. Please forgive me if I mention your name. I want everybody to contribute something. So what are some of the strategic priorities you were able to identify in your institution? This time, Bongani, I will not let you speak. What are some of the strategic priorities? Can we get one or two people, the strategic priorities of their institution? My institution, my new vice chancellor wants to make the University of Cape Coast an entrepreneurial university. So he wants to champion everything entrepreneurial. So we want to see entrepreneurship, in the way we do things in our various offices. We want to see entrepreneurship, of course, the other type of entrepreneurship. We want to encourage student startup. So that is one strategic priority of my institution. And you agree with me that in all these, we need resources to be able to do that. And we don't need only financial resources. We need also human resources. We also need material resources, because we want to build a center for design thinking and business development. So we need money to be able to do that. So we need finance, we need material, we need physical resources, and we will need people to manage. So we need human beings to be able to do that. Now, Priscilla, I've seen your hand up. Can you also give me the strategic priorities in your institution? That you mentioned one or two resources so that we can move on.
Yes, in my institution, we've been backward structurally, and it has been a concern. So the priority of the institution is to make sure that we upgrade structurally, so that to upgrade, so that we will have accommodation for laboratories, for research, and then for teaching and learning in my institution.
Okay, thank you very much, Priscilla. I've seen Rani, your hand is up. Please, can you unmute yourself? Then we continue. Yes, Rani, please. Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you so much, madam. This is Sister Rani. In our institution, we have strategic plan that is to enhance and explore opportunities and to meet the higher education requirements at national and international levels. And the another one, to improve relevance and quality of teaching and learning process. And one more, to know to known as the best educational and research institute in the country in all the areas we are engaged in.
Okay.
So another two.
Okay. You want to add one more?
Two more.
Okay, two more. Okay.
And we also wanted to promote the partnership working in all that we do and engage fully with our regional, national, and international partners and our stakeholders and our alumni. And another one, final one. To convert each school into a center of excellence. This is what our university strategic plan.
Thank you very much. Malawi. Okay. And you know that in all these things, you need resources to be able to do that. So these are just examples. I just pick a few examples. I think we've all mentioned it. Social responsibilities, you want new research. Sometimes you even want to develop expertise in a new program, and you need resources to be able to do that. So these are just examples of strategic priorities, and these priorities we need resources to be able to do that. When I finish, I will give the slides to Percy and he will give to you. So all these things will be there. Now, we are not going to do the group exercises because of time. Where can these, I was asking myself, so these are strategic priorities and we need resources to be able to achieve or support these priorities. Where can we find these resources? Where can we find them? Where can we find these resources? Can someone else, one or two people, where can we find the resources? Rani shared with us their strategic plan, and you can see that most of them are very ambitious. So you need resources. And remember, we said that resources is not only finance. Resources is the physical, the reputation, information, even the structure. I think Priscilla was saying that you now want to improve activity. So you are looking at the structure of your systems. So where can we find these resources? Where can we find the resources for our institute?
Vani, please go ahead, Vani.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Very informative discussion. I'd like to add that at UKZN, I'm from South Africa.
Okay.
And one of our priority resources is we utilize our staff in terms of driving research. Research initiative that is targeting African problems and African solutions. So as one of our key priorities in our mission and vision statement, we identify African research as one of our key priorities, and we push our staff as well as our students who we take and give free PhD funding for towards gearing towards finding solutions to Africa's problems. So we develop resources from our pool within the university, from our students and staff, so that we can expand on creating new knowledge for the African continent, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vani. So you can see that in her institution, they are developing the human resources, because one of their priorities is to come out with research that will solve African problems. And therefore, the resources, they are finding the resources from within their institution. And she mentioned the staff and the students. So these are some of the ways by which we can find resources.
Rob,
now,
I think Priscilla is on, if you would allow Priscilla to go ahead.
Okay, Priscilla.
All right, Priscilla.
Okay, yes. I was looking at collaborations with other institutions.
Good.
So that we can beef up some of the programs that we have that are marketable, that people are more interested in. And again, looking at grants. When you write grants and you are able to get to establishing centers of excellence where you can get students from across Africa or even beyond to take part in some of these programs where research is key. And then you bring in resources that beef up your institution, both academically and in terms of manpower. When your institution has people cutting across Africa, it gives good publicity to your institution, and people want to come there. And this can bring in intellect. It can also bring in money. It can bring in good reputation, which makes your universities sellable.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. I think I'm really enjoying this interaction, and I'm happy because, remember, we are sharing ideas and we want to help each other for our countries, or not only for our region, but they are for the whole world. Now, when we come to looking at resource mobilization, of course, there is a little bit of a paradigm shift. You know, the conventional way, we're all depending on external sources, especially government. When you come to the public institutions, but with the private institutions, they are depending on fees because students are expected to pay fees. Now we are moving to a new way. It doesn't mean that when we move to the new way, we are going to discard the old way. No, we are improving upon the conventional way by moving into a new way where we want to try as much as possible to be more self-reliant, focusing on internally generated funds or internally generated resources. So the paradigm shift is that we are moving from a model of dependence, depending on only the government and only school fees, to independence. And so at the end of the day, we are looking at interdependence. So we are looking for resources from the government, but we are also looking for resources from other sources. So it means that now we have to find new and creative way in coming out with resources, the right resources to be able to achieve our strategic priorities. So we are moving, there is a paradigm shift. We are moving from the conventional way. And remember, I said that it doesn't mean relate with the government. The government is supposed to provide amenities for the community or for the society or for the citizens. And therefore, they need to contribute something. But we don't want to rely so much on the government. We also want to rely on other sources. Resources we can generate ourselves, and resources, like Priscilla said, we can also collaborate with other institutions to be able to generate. Remember, I said we are looking at new and creative way. So either we may look at other sources that we might have not even thought of. And that is what I mean by invention. So I'm not looking at invention in the normal sense, but here I'm looking at it as invention. Or if we have an old way, can we modify it? And as we start the discussions, for instance, I was saying that we have a program. We've been running a program on regular basis. Is there a way we can modify it so that we run it on distance? Usually I use my university as an example. Forgive me. I remember previously we used to run our programs on regular basis, and we decided to go distance. So we have distance education. So it is the same programs we run on regular basis, but now we do it by the distance mode. And you can't believe that with our normal students, that was last year, we had about 20,000 students regular, and we had about 60,000 students on distance education. And these distance education students, who are about 60,000, are full fee paying students. So you can see that it is the same way we have the regular, we generate a little bit of income from the regular program, but we have modified it by introducing those same programs by distance, and it is giving us more money. So this is an example of what we call the modification. Then synthesis of what we can add the traditional, we look at them as and when we look at the resource mobilization activities in institutions. That yes, we need to mobilize resources. Yes, we may be using grants. We may be using alumni relations. Can we look at other sources? Because now, if you agree with me, because of COVID-19 and governments themselves are suffering, it means that we have to find creative ways of mobilizing more resources to be able to achieve our strategic priorities. So I wanted us to do a little bit of creativity exercises. Remember, we are looking at creative ways of mobilizing resources. So this one, I just want us to pick a sheet. If you have a sheet, a paper, and a pen, you can try and do it on your own. Let's see how creative we are. Then we'll try and see if we can come up with creative ways of mobilizing resources for our institution. So this, to test how creative we are and how we can apply creativity to our resource mobilization efforts. So for instance, I have this 9 points, and I want you to see if you'll be able to connect it with 4 continuous lines. So can we try just 1 minute? It's 9 points, and you are connecting it with 4 continuous lines. Just try it. It's just exercises. Remember, I said we are using the principles of adult learning, so we want to be interactive, share ideas with each other. So try. It is 9 points. I want to see how creative you are. Remember, we are looking at a model of interdependence. So we are looking for new and creative ways in mobilizing resources. So let us do a little exercise to see how creative we are. And remember, we are the instruction says we are connecting the 9 dots with 4 continuous lines, or 9 points with 4 continuous lines. So it means that the lines you are drawing should be continuous. Yes, and Nana, Mrs. Nana, Noel, I've seen that you've tried something, but I don't see that your lines, they are not continuous. Are they continuous? I don't think so. Okay. Thank you for trying. So you can try on your own. Now let me draw the lines for you to see. Remember, we want to be creative. I teach entrepreneurship, so in everything we want to add creativity to it. So that is the first line. And remember, because I said you connect the 9 points with four continuous lines. If you don't see beyond, you think that, okay, I can't draw any line beyond. The instruction was you are connecting the 9 points with 4 continuous lines. So the line can go beyond. All that I want to see is that you've been able to connect the 9 points. So I've drawn the first one, I've drawn the second, third one, and this is the fourth one. So that is the 9 points with 4 continuous lines. So then the next creative exercise is that what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? Can I get 2 people trying? You raise your hand, and I think, I don't know whether myself or Percy or Irene will do the calling. What do you see? Can I get 2 hands? Okay.
Okay, so I think that Stephen says 2 faces looking at each other. Mandisa says a vase.
Yes.
Sarah says there are 2 female faces.
Okay.
Somebody said a vase and 2 faces.
Yes. Yes, you are all right. But you see, at a first glance, when you look at it, you'll be looking at only the vase. But when you look at it critically, you see that there are 2 faces. All that I just want to put across is that we have to be creative when it comes to mobilizing resources. And when we come to look at the various activities, you see that there are various ways by which you can do the resource mix. Financial, human resource, material. You can even use one move. You can get various types of resources, and we'll look at that. So this is also another creativity exercise. There is a word with 3 letters. There is a word with 3 letters. Which word with 3 letters do you see? It is a word with 3 letters. It's a word with 3 letters. Can you identify? Can we get 2 people?
Prof said it's fly.
Yes.
Fly.
And who sees something else? Actually, yes, it is fly. It is FLY. Initially, when you see it, you'll be looking at the dark drawings in between them. So you'll be thinking that maybe we are going to the Egyptian era. Actually, it is FLY. Let me identify the 4 in the 5. Identify the 4 in the 5. Identify the 4 in the 5. There is a 4 in the FIVE. Who can identify it?
Yeah, from the chat they are all saying IV.
Yes,
the
it
Roman
is correct.
numeral. The Roman,
yes, it's IV. Yeah. Then let's look at the last one. How many 9s are there between 1 and 100? How many 9s can you get? How many 9s are there between 1 and 100? 9s. How many 9s are there between 1 and 100? So trying.
Interesting. Sarah says 2 9s.
Yes.
Widad says
between
10.
1 and 100, though.
Yes. Prof is also saying 10. Robert is saying 10. Yes. I think someone also said 1.
Yes.
Someone said 19.
Yes.
11. Interesting. Yes. And some are saying 10 too. I think 10 is the... Yes. Oh, someone said 20.
Yes, there are 20 9s between 1 and 100 because you have 9, 19, 29. Then when you get to 90, 91, 92. Then when you get to 99, it is 2 9s. So it is 20 9s from 1 to 100. So these are just exercises, short exercises to test how creative we are. Because when it comes to resource mobilization, we also have to apply creativity when it comes to mobilizing resources. So this was just to test how creative we are and how we can look for different types of resources and how we can combine them. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to achieve our strategic priorities. So from all the discussions we've had, these are examples of resources, funding from government, alumni, internationalization, private-public partnership, proposal writing. We'll even look at resource sharing, endowments, faculty, students. So these are some of the ways by which we can mobilize resources for our institutions. But I'm going to select a few of them, and we'll try as much as possible in detail. And remember, I indicated that, yes, we'll mention proposal writing, but if Kwesi will agree, he can organize a workshop, a specific workshop for that. And I'm prepared to be able to take participants through proposal writing, preparing the log frame, and also showing organization. So we'll mention it in passing. Now, another activity, we are not going to do that because of time. I wanted to know your responsibility at your university, vice chancellor, HOD, dean, director, or you are the registrar. And I'm asking whose responsibility is to mobilize resources in your institution. Are you the one, or is someone else? Because sometimes when you ask, people will say, okay, we have the advancement office. But remember, we've indicated that when we are looking at resource mobilization, we are not looking at only funds. We are looking at other resources. And like Vani said, they develop their faculty and students to be able to carry out. And faculty students, they are examples of human resources. And their strategic priority is to come up with research that can help solve African problems. So who in your institution is responsible for resource mobilization? Advancement office, top management, middle management, lower level management, staff, and students. At the end of the day, I would say that everybody in the institution is, of course, in our statutes and in our rules, we will have specific people, but everybody is part of the the resource mobilization process. And therefore, there is a need for us to be able to develop the skills of people to be able to mobilize resources. We are not going to go through our health break because, of course, everywhere we are, at a point you can start and stretch a little. It's good so that we increase our metabolism. We don't want to sit down for 3 hours. I don't think it is good for our health. So whilst we continue, we are not going to break, but you can just stand up, and whilst you are listening, you do a little bit of stretching so that we all make sure that we are healthy. So we've established the base, the foundation, what resource mobilization is, why we need to mobilize resources. And now we are going to look at networking as a tool for resource mobilization. It is very, very, very important. And I believe that whilst we are here and we are introducing ourselves, it is good we keep contacts because I will give you lots of examples. Through networking, I've been able to get projects from GIZ, DAD, EU, United Nations. It's because of this networking. And it is one of them also mobilize resources. So that's why I intentionally singled out networking as a tool for resource mobilization. So remember, organizations will not have all the resources they need from within or from internal. So there is a need for them to look at external sources to be able to also mobilize resources. And we are saying that when we talk of networking, it is good for you to invest time and resources in approaching and quality providers. It is very, 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 very important. When we're looking at types of resources, remember resources. So in as much as the organization is expected to generate these resources internally, there is a need for you to be able to source for resources from outside the organization. And for you to be able to do that, especially sourcing from outside the organization, there is a need for you to invest time and resources in approaching, and you have to cultivate. I've been telling my colleagues that It is relationship building. We are trying to see if we can establish a design thinking and business development center. And before we even finish the whatever we want to do, the partitioning we have people who are ready to furnish the various rooms for that design thinking center. It's because we've invested time and resources in approaching and cultivating this resource providers. So networking is very, very, very important if we want to really mobilize resources. Of course, when we say networking, we all know what networking is all about. Connection between people, bringing people together and building relationship with people. It's very, very important. Not only people, but you build relationship with institutions, you build relationships with organizations. They are very, very, and it is very, very, very important we do that. So why do we network? Remember, we want to mobilize resources. So because when we network, we say that it is a resource for other networks. So you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. It also helps to promote your ideas, your work, or your cause. Sometimes you want to support something, and when you network, you are able to share with others. Sometimes it also helps you to learn from those inside and outside the organization. And it also helps you to develop alliances. So we are trying to cultivate, build relationship, cultivate people who can provide us with resources. Not only people, it can even be organizations and institutions. So it's time and effort. And it is not only our vice chancellor, it is not only the deans, it is not only the heads of department, whichever position you have or you occupy in your organization, you should also be able to cultivate and build relationship. Because remember, we said that a resource for other networks. So networking is very, 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 very important. So what are some of the ways by which we can network? We have professional association, we have information session, we have events, we have advanced. There are a lot of ways. We have conferences. These are just some of them I'm mentioning. Sometimes it can be a ball, it can be an event, it can be anything, information giving session. These are all some of the ways by which you can network. We are talking about donors who will look at them. But sometimes some of these donors, you meet them during your conferences, workshop, and information session. You have to build and cultivate that relationship. You can't just meet a donor and all that you say is, okay, I need $10 million. Can you give me? The person will be thinking, who is this? But when you've built the relationship, sometimes when there is an opportunity, they are the people who will even send you an email and say, there is this opportunity here. Can your university apply? Or I've seen this here. Can your university apply? So we are saying that these are some of the ways by which we can network. What are the stages of networking? How do we network? The first stage, I call it, you have to build rapport. You've attended a conference, you've attended a workshop, you've attended an event. You should be able to build rapport with people. For instance, if I want to pick something from someone, and remember, it is not only money. Sometimes they can come and build a hostel or accommodation for your institution, or sometimes they can provide you with a machine or an equipment you otherwise you might not have been able to purchase yourself as an institution. But when you attend some of these events, you know that when you meet people, there is a need for you to build rapport. Sometimes it is a cocktail, sometimes it is a dinner, you sit by people, build the conversation. It is very, very, very important. Then secondly, there is when you start building the rapport and you build a relationship, there is a need for you to establish that trust. I had the opportunity of working with Bonn Reinzig University of Applied Sciences. We started the relationship in 2012. And since that relationship, of course, I was telling someone that we've been able to work on 6 projects together. It's because after the rapport, we were able to build that trust. There is transparency. So when you are building and cultivating that relationship, you should be able to develop trust amongst each other. It is very, very, very important. That is why sometimes because of that relationship, usually they bring a lot of projects, and it's just that sometimes because we are busy, we are not able to take advantage of all those things. So it is very, very important you build a rapport, you build a trust, then you should be consistent. Some of us, we build a network, we build relationship, then we communicate for some time, then at a point they send us emails, we don't respond. Sometimes they send us email, we never respond at all. Or we don't even say, oh, hi, how are you? I'm just checking on you. The only time we communicate with those people is when we need something from them. No, you are not consistent. So when you are building networks, you have to build a rapport, you have to build a trust, and of course, there should be consistency. And finally, you don't build network because you want to build network. You want to see results. I always tell people that there is no free lunch anywhere. Even if you go to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and you buy lunch, you have to pay. So when people are collaborating, or when they are building network or cultivating relationship, at the end of the day, there should be something that each partner wants. And therefore, when you network, you want to see results. Now, that is network. You build rapport, you are consistent, and you see results. What is strategic networking? Remember, we've looked at networking, the normal networking. But when we say we are strategic, it means that it is not every network that you want to build. There are some networks that you want to build, and that is what we call the strategic networking. So with that strategic networking, you begin with the end in mind. So for instance, if I'm invited to a ball or something at an embassy, because I teach in a department and there is something and they've invited me, I don't go because I just want to go and see people's faces. No, I want to go because I have a strategic priority for my department or my unit. And I'm trying to see when I go, is there any resources, is there any relationship I can build that will give me access to a particular resource? We will look at the various types of resources. And you see that sometimes it is not money. Sometimes it is a type of human resource you don't have. And through your contact, they can say that, oh, I'm recommending this organization to you because they can get you the resource. So you begin with the end in mind. Then, of course, you know your audience. So when you are going, you know the people who are attending. You should know that, oh, the ambassador is coming, the head of World Bank is coming, this one is coming. So you should know the audience. You should be able to target people when you are attending those functions. Then, of course, you have to you have to know their interests. Then you listen. You don't talk. There are some people, they talk too much. The way they are talking and the discussions, you'll be able to pick one or two things from this interaction. Then you keep your talking points in advance. You know how to start the conversation. And at the end of the day, when you finish with the discussions, the normal sure that you leave critical information behind. It is very, very, very important. And remember, you follow up, you follow up, you follow up. And of course, you don't need to forget to say thank you to some of the good things they say or some of the good things they do for you. So when we are looking at networking, networking is very, very, very important. We want to write for funds. Yes, you can write a proposal, but sometimes if you don't have the network, you can write 100 proposals and nobody will mind you. Sometimes, remember, I've said through the network, they are the people who tell you that I've seen this funding here. Can we collaborate and apply for our institutions? So networking is very, 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 very important when it comes to resource mobilization. And networking itself is an example of resource. We call it social capital. So it is very, very, very important. You can't do it without networking. I wanted us to do speed dating, but there are a lot of things we want to discuss. So when I give you the slides later, when you get the opportunity, you can do speed dating. Speed dating is simply you meet someone for the first time and you try to see if you can, through the conversation, you'll be able to know what they do, just to get to know people, because that is the beginning of networking. And we are not going to do that because we don't have a lot of time. And usually when you are networking and you are going out, make sure that you have something, maybe your card or something that you can remember. I said there is the need for you to leave something critical information behind. So we are not going to do the breakout session because it takes time. When you get the opportunity and you travel, now coronavirus is not allowing us to travel, but when you get the opportunity to travel in the future, then you can do some of these things we call speed dating, trying to get to know people you meet, so that in future, if you need something, it will be easier for you to be able to contact them, or you should be able to contact them and keep the information then. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Victor.
You said that someone will phone me when they were coming for the 10 Smaragd Street.
Hello, Bruce. Can you kindly mute yourself? But Victor, you had your hand up.
Yes.
You can go ahead, Victor.
So I was just wanting to make sure.
Okay, good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon.
No problem, thanks.
I see there is somebody whose mic is still on. Okay, my name is Victor. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you very much, Prof, for this presentation. I have just one question that I want to ask from you.
Okay.
I've seen in the not-for-profit sector or in the NGO sector,
yes,
they give some kind of a commission or an allowance to people who raise funds.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people being paid 2% or 3% of the total amount that you would have raised.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out from your experience in the higher education sector, is this practice prevalent from your experience? And in addition to that, do you think it's ethical to say, if you raise 10 million, we give you 1%? Would it be a practice that is acceptable in our field? Because I've seen it happening in the not-for-profit sector and possibly in the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. Now institutions have started doing that. Even my university, they've also started doing that. With them, they don't give you, it's coming up, they will give you 15% if you are able to raise funds, because they want to encourage people to be able to do that. When you go to the private sector, we have people who do that. That is their business. I was telling someone that if you go to the US, we have this educational institutions, and they have lobbyists. There are thousands of lobbyists in the US because at the end of the day, they should be able to lobby, to be able to get something in their favor. So institutions want to encourage people because, you know, when you are raising funds, it's a lot of some higher educational institutions give you a percentage. And I told you recently, my university is even trying to roll something out. With them, they will give you 15%. If you are able to bring in a substantial, we are not looking at the small ones, but if you are able to bring in a substantial amount of money, the university is prepared to give you 15%. And I think we are going with the adage that says, have a loaf is better than none. If someone will do, because raising funds is not, it's a lot of work. And if they are able to bring about $10 or $20 million to the institution, it's better you have something than not having anything. So that is what I know some institutions are doing, and my institution is even coming on board because we need funds or resources to students. And you know, now with COVID-19 and all those things, government itself is suffering. So the financial resources, especially, to be able to do that. So we are starting as a university to encourage people to bring in more funds. Otherwise, there are people who do that for universities and they pick their commission. It's just that sometimes it is difficult to trust them. So if you can get people from within who will be able to work very hard to do that, why not encourage and motivate them? I don't know if someone has got a different opinion, whether it is ethical, it is not ethical, because if it is institutionalized, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question, Victor.
I think I understand very well, but Prof, wouldn't it be regarded as double dipping? Remember, these people are on the payroll. They've been employed to raise funds. Now we're paying them again for doing their job. Pay everyone else if they do something, you know. so to
yes,
speak.
But you see, some of them may say that it is not their duty. We are looking at fundraising. It is not their duty to raise funds. Maybe their duty is to do something else. So if they are going the extra mile to bring you money, then they have to be rewarded. Of course, it is debatable. I don't know if anyone has got any other view. But in my area, because I teach entrepreneurship, you take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way. So if it is institutionalized, that is fine. There are some people whose duty is to mobilize funds. That is what they are paid for. But there are others, for instance, I'm paid to teach. So I'm teaching. But if I'll go the extra mile and the university wants to encourage people to do more of that, then they may say that, okay, if you're able to bring something, we'll also give you something. Then it encourages people to do more work. That is my opinion. But I don't know. Maybe, has anyone got any different view? Vani?
Yes, Prof, I think Vani, yes.
Yes.
Prof, at my university, I wish we could follow the protocol your university has. It seems reasonable, realistic. It also provides drive and initiative. Yeah. So that people are more innovative and to draw from funds from outside. However, recently, me and another group of, it was a team effort at the university, where we were called on to work on raising funds. It was an AAU and a British Council grant. It was quite big, and sadly, I know that the money would go to the institution and not us. Amazingly enough, our university is so creative in making money from us that I even pay for my parking. No, ma'am, I pay for my parking bay. If you're a staff member, even to create funds, we pay for parking bays. So we've got very stimulating minds. Even if I have to work outside, I have to get a private work document signed. If the university feels I need to pay them a portion, I have to. They use everything to the benefit of creating an innovative way to bring in funds into us. So sometimes it works as a double-dual sword. For example, if I'm asked to work somewhere and sometimes I don't want to work outside when my university is going to get 50% of the money. I mean, I'd rather work on my research. So it's like I feel abused in the system. Unfortunately, the thing is, I find my institution quite brilliant in tackling innovative ways of creating money out. Even our students, we offer something on the incubate thing where we say drive for innovation, and we get them to come up with new ideas, new whatever. We'll even fund them, but we're taking a percentage of their business. It's good and it's bad, but the idea is this is the only way you're a seed funder. So I understand the implications. It's good because they need the money, the students. But the idea is I admire the institution in terms of the drive they take to try to pull money from everywhere, especially from the staff and students. 90% of the time. Besides the donors, who we quite blessed with, I must appreciate, from the community locally and internationally. But it's always very interesting, ma'am, to see this dynamic because, like you said, innovative ways of getting monies in so that we can think of new strategic ways to how shall we say, pool funds to improve the university's resources. That's, I think, the fundamental drive. We're becoming more, ma'am, if you noticed, like the corporate world, I must say.
Yeah. I think we are becoming, and it's because we don't have enough. Even my university, if you bring in a consultancy, you also have to pay the university a percentage. So whilst they are encouraging you to bring in funds and they give you a percentage, when you also bring consultancy, when you get consultancy as an individual, with a certain amount of money, they ask you to pay a percentage. And I believe that, I think it's because we are desperate. There are a lot of things we want to do for our students. There are a lot of things we want to do for our community. We want to have impactful research, and we don't have enough resources to be able to do that. And therefore, we have to find creative ways of getting those resources so that we'll be able to provide that service. But I think that is a good idea. We'll also pick from your university, and I'll share it with management to see if, because you agree with me that when you are writing those proposals, sometimes you use your own private time because you have to sleep. You don't have to sleep. You have to stay and write. Sometimes your weekends, because you have to meet a deadline. And I believe that you go through all that and others are sleeping and enjoying their bed. I think you need to be rewarded. I don't know. Victor, do you agree, or still you have reservations about that?
To some extent, I agree, but I have a problem with the ethical implications. We may end up with a situation where everyone now does not do their core business. They are chasing the money, Every morning they are busy writing proposals because they earn more than what they would earn from their salary. So I think if the university...
millions, it's okay.
Hello? I think someone else wanted to make a contribution.
Yes, this is Dr. Stephen Odama from Gulu in northern Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah, that opinion of the person who won the resources to be given, will it not sometimes mean the person earning twice? Because in certain proposals, you have a place for stipend, and then others where if you are the lead person yourself, you also get some money during the activities. So will the person not be getting money twice?
It depends. Sometimes it's just the way they treat proposals are different. Like you are saying, in the proposal, you have stipend that is different. But let's assume I've been able to contact someone and the person, through my work, I've been able to bring 30,000, maybe a donation of $30,000 or $20,000. Then that is when they give you the 15%. Because usually in the proposals, some of them, not all of them, they allow you to put your stipend. Those ones, the university is even now, my university is even now saying that when you get those ones, they want to take 15%, they want to put it in a welfare fund so that every other employee who is not doing proposal will also enjoy. At the end of the year, they can give us bonus to everybody. So the university is finding different ways of making sure that they pick some from somewhere if everybody is not getting, and putting it in a bigger pool so that everybody enjoys that. That's also one way of motivating everybody within the university. So you agree with me that that's why you have to be creative if you want to make sure that at the end of the day, what you are doing, it doesn't make things unethical, and at the same time making sure that the cake and everybody is treated fairly within the organization. But these are issues that we have to think about when we are trying to encourage people to be able to mobilize resources for our institution. So now let us go to
Prof, let's take some few of the comments in the chat, because I think mostly they are not talking, but they are in the chat. So Chioma said, working extra hours to deliver on the institutional assignment should attract remuneration. And Grace said, Prof, I agree with you. Resource mobilization takes time and money. So faculty members who take the initiative and succeed must be given percentages as motivation. So Nozizwe Lamini said, we have a sharing policy for any consultancy one. The greater percentage goes to the researchers or the consultant team. It acts as an incentive for the staff to keep mobilizing for the resources. And Prof. Job said, if you are the principal investigator and you run the project, then there wouldn't be any need for the claims, for any claims. I don't know, maybe Prof can come again with what he meant by that.
Okay. So thank you all very much for your contribution. And I'm happy that we are bringing a whole lot of issues. When we go back to our institutions, these are some of the things we have to discuss, because we need to mobilize resources. And you agree with me that even in this current dispensation of our COVID-19, we need it. It makes it even very important for us to mobilize those resources. So now let us look at some of the resource mobilization activities within our institutions of higher learning. And the first one, I have captioned it, Reinventing the Wheel. I remember I mentioned it, and I will just mention it again so that we look at other activities that we go through when we are mobilizing resources. And this one, I'm looking at how we come out with programs, and of course, through those programs, we make money. And of course, I indicated that one of the ways by which you can make money, of course, we are not looking at the normal, we have regular, we have weekend, we have distance, we have summer, and sometimes you can roll out new demand-driven programs on a weekend or distance basis where people are made to pay fees. Usually for the weekend and the distance or the summer, you are targeting people who are working. The regular one is for the normal students. So I indicated that in my institution, we've developed quite a number of demand-driven programs, and that is bringing the university money. Or sometimes it is the same program, but you have a new mode of delivery. And if you remember, I indicated that our regular programs, we have about 20,000 students. We had about 70,000 students on our distance education program, and they were paying fees. So you can imagine, for instance, our distance education unit provides about, is it 40? I'll check again. 40% of our income comes from our distance education program, because that program is full fee paying. And the full fee paying, it means that the students pay fees, actual fees, and that gives the university. And we've been able to put up infrastructure recently in our library, even where I'm sitting now. It was just opened officially yesterday, and that is what we call the Knowledge Commons. And it is the distance education people who gave us money. They contributed some amount of money. They gave us about 500,000 Ghana cedis, which is about almost $100,000 to be able to establish the Knowledge Commons. So all that we are saying is that sometimes you can reinvent the wheel, or you can start strategic alliances. Or my institution, what we do is that now we have an office we call the Affiliation Office. So we try and mentor other private institutions. And when we mentor these private institutions and a few public institutions, they are made to pay some token. And that to raise funds to be able to support some of the activities of the university. So all that we are saying is that you are mobilizing resources. Finance is one of them. And we are saying that you can reinvent the wheel. Your new programs, your old programs, your location, your strategic alliances, they are all ways by which you can raise finance. And like I indicated, these sources, even for my university alone, brings in a lot of money. And it has helped the university to be able to put up more classrooms and provide other services for students and staff. So one of the sources we talk about is reinventing the wheel. The new programs, the old programs, the location, the strategic alliances, the mentoring, all these are examples by which we can mobilize resources. So that is the first activity. Now let's look at the second activity. We've all been mentioning donor funding, donor funding, donor funding. And of course, I'm not going to go into the actual proposal writing. I've indicated I have to take our time if we want to really understand and know some of the things we have to do. I know some of you have been writing so that we can share ideas. So, Kwesi, this is also another request. Maybe later you can also organize a workshop so that we can share ideas as to how to write those proposals. But we are saying that fundraising is friend raising. I've already established the fact. There is a need for you to build the network. It is very, very, very important. So let us look at some of these donors. They are private foundations, they are government and quasi-government agencies. Some of them can be NGO, they can be multilateral organizations, or some of them can be business corporations. I will show you a few sites. This is just a few. There are plenty of sites you can go to identify some of the donor organizations and some of the things they fund. But remember, I've told you that before you even go, you have to know what those people fund. It is very, very, very important, because you should be able to understand. Maybe they want to give a particular service. I know Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they are looking at health in developing countries. So when you want to go for the funds, these are some of the things you have to look at. What are those people funding, and how will I be able to get some of those funds? So these are some of the information on institutional donors. We have the Foundation Center. These are some of them. There are plenty of them. Previously, I had about 182 pages. Unfortunately, I can't find it on my laptop. I'll try as much as possible. If I find it, I'll give it to Kwesi. That shows the various funding organizations and what they look out for. If I find it, I'll send it. It was a PDF document. But these are some of the places you can find information on institutional donors. So, example, we have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this is starting in 2016, just giving you an idea of some of the things they were funding. They were giving money to the African Library and Information Association and institutions. That was in 2015. These are some of the monies they gave. And this is the Carnegie Corporation of New York. And these are some of the monies, the number of grants they gave to various organizations. And I zoomed it to Ghana. These are the universities, Kwame Nkrumah University. Unfortunately, I didn't see my university in there, but that is fine. Maybe we've also gotten something from somewhere. And this institution, look at it very well. Later, I'll use it as an example. They've been able to raise millions of dollars from some of these funding agencies. That's Ashasi University College. So these are just examples. SDG funding in Ghana. I use Ghana as an example. So these are some of them. I'll give you the slides, so don't worry. You can go and look at some of these organizations. These are the amount of money they've given. This is the top 8 recipients, university funded by the USAID. So you can go to the USAID site, or you can also go to the European Union. Those of you who are in charge of fundraising, I think you can go and register. That's what I did for my university. I went to the EU site and I registered my institution. So if there is any opportunity, if there is any call for proposals, they send to the university, because the university has been registered on their site. And the EU, they have a lot of projects. Currently, I'm running a project for them on electronic waste. And so you can go on their site and also look at some of the things they fund, and the way you can also build collaboration. I remember I said networking is very, very important, because the project I'm running for them, we are collaborating with an institution in Germany, a private institution and governmental institution, plus the University of Cape Coast. And so they like those types of collaborations and networking. So you can go to the EU site and it will give you information as to some of the things they fund. So for instance, I just went on the site today, and this is what I found. The employment and social inclusion, agriculture and regional development, they have research and humanitarian aids. So it is very, very important to go to some of these sites. Then we have foundation directory online. You can also go there and look at some of the things those people fund. Then we have the issues lab. I'll give you the slides so you can just go to some of these sites. Angus Foundation, TechSoup. So those are example donors, but before you go, of course, there is a need for you to write a proposal. So when you see what they want, sometimes when you go on the site, they have a form. Some of them have a form, so you just fill in the proposal in the form. For instance, EU has got a form. I've been working with DAD. They have a form. So UNEP, UNOPS, United Nations Office of Programs, they also will give you a form. So you just have to fill in the form. So when you go to the site, then at least you know some of the things they are asking for. And so when you are writing the proposal, you have that in mind. Sometimes they even give you the format. So you have to fill in some of the things they want. But all that we are saying is that these are donor funding, and you have to write proposals to be able to get there. And there is a need for you to develop your skills in grantsmanship. We can't go through everything you need to know in grantsmanship today, because it's a lot of work. We have to look at the objectives, how to develop the log framework, the indicators, and all those things. It's a lot of, we can't use 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours to be able to do that. We have to do a lot of practice when we are going through that. But all that we are saying is that these donors, before you be able to get to them, there is a need for you to know them very well. Some of the things they fund before you put in your proposal. It is very, very, very important you do that, because they cannot just give you the money. You should be able to send proposal and even budgets. And the proposal should have a budget as to what you want to do. So at the end of the day, all that we are saying is that, sorry, you write. So like Rani said, it is a lot of work. And remember, I was telling someone that you spend all this time in writing the proposal. If it is not funded, you don't get anything. That's why when it gets funded and you get something, I think it is because it's a lot of work. Those of us on this platform who write proposals, you agree with me that it is a lot of work. You get sleepless nights. You have to write. Sometimes you have to. I remember I submitted a proposal at 2 a.m. At 2 a.m. And unfortunately for me, that day the lights were off. I was very fortunate. I was using an Apple, so I had to use my phone to be able to send a proposal. So at the end of the day, if you get funded, it's not all the time that you get funded. If you get funded, then university gives you something. I think because whilst you are working, someone is sleeping in bed, enjoying himself or herself very soundly, and we are doing the sleepless nights. It's a lot of work. And I believe that if we are able to, because the other time I was asking a colleague, if I write a proposal and I don't get anything, then the person will say, I'm not going to write. Because whilst you are writing the proposal, others are writing papers to get promoted. So you should be motivated to forgo something to be able to write it. Because when you write the proposals too, it gives the university a reputation. When they mention something, they will say University of Uganda, University of Professional Studies, University. The name of the university goes out there. So at the end of the day, I believe that when people do all that hard work, they need to be rewarded. So we have donor funds. There are a lot of websites. Please, you can go and look at the websites. It's a lot of work. I know, for instance, there are Directorates of Research, Innovation, and Consultancy. Every year, they put in a list of those funding opportunities. It is a lot of work, but I believe that there is the need for us, because when you write those proposals and even you don't win, the experience alone counts. And sometimes when you write and you don't win, sometimes you'll be there. If there is an opportunity, then they will tell you that, oh, this time you can try, maybe you'll be able to win it. So we've looked at reinventing the wheel as an example of funding activity, resource mobilization activity, We've also looked at donor funding as an example of funding activity. Then we talk about endowments. Endowments. Now in the US, it is very, very, very common. People donate money to institutions, and of course, those institutions, those investment income are usually used for a specific purpose. And usually what we call the flex lab, and everything is sponsored is paid for by the German government. So the lab, the smart classroom. We are even building a place where students can write Microsoft exams, they can write SAT, they can write TOEFL. All these are examples by which we can mobilize resources. So internationalization is another activity we can use in mobilizing resources for our institution. For instance, I went to this site. You have the Japanese Society. It is a volunteer service. So if you need a lecturer, you know, sometimes you don't have the critical skills you need for a particular program or for something, for lab work. Sometimes you can go to this site and you'll be able to get this Japanese volunteer service. And what they do is that sometimes when they even bring the people, you don't pay anything. So you are mobilizing human resource and you are not paying anything. They will pay for the accommodation, they will pay for the food, they will pay for everything of the volunteer. All that you need is that when the volunteer comes, you need to get him. So you can go to some of these sites and mobilize resources, especially when it comes to some of the critical resources you need that you may not have. We have also from South Korea, Korean International Volunteer Organization, the same thing. You can also be able to get critical resources for your institution from some of these organizations. Then we have the Senior Expert Service, that is from Germany. These are experts who have worked in industry, who have worked in organizations, and they are on retirement. And with these experts, what you do is that you can request, so you can see that here they have request an SES expert. What you do is that when they come, you just provide them with accommodation. You don't pay them. You just provide them with accommodation. And if what they want to do, you want them to do is where they are staying is far. Sometimes you may decide to provide them with transportation. But otherwise, you also don't pay them. I had the opportunity of visiting a university in the north, and I realized that they were using some of this. So the person, the expert whole builds solar panels that generates electricity for the whole university. So when we say resource mobilization, we are not looking at only money. Sometimes you may have critical resources, skills, human resources you need. And there are some of these sites you can go and request for an expert. Some of them you don't have to pay a lot of money, but they have the critical skills and competencies you need to be able to grow and sustain your university. So I've given you examples. We have the Japanese, we have the Korean, and we have the German Senior Expert Service. So these are, sometimes you can even bring them to come and help you with proposal writing. Because you will say that I need an expert who is very good in proposal writing. My institution wants to write a proposal. So can you bring me an expert who is good? Maybe they are, when it comes to proposal writing in the area of agriculture, or proposal writing in the area of maybe water systems. They are very, very good, these experts. So that is also a place where you can mobilize Senior Expert Service. So we have the Korean, we have the Japanese, and I believe that other countries have also got some of these organizations. You just have to know some of the requirements and what you have to provide. But most of them, you don't pay them, because if you want to pay them as consultants, you can't pay the money. And these are volunteers, they are retired, or they want to take some time off work. They are executives, experts, and you can make use of them, and you don't have to pay a lot of money. So please, institutions of higher learning, take advantage of that. We need someone to come and help us to prepare a resource mobilization plan, to prepare this, prepare that, to build a hostel, to give us advice. These opportunities are there. Let us take advantage of them. They are examples of mobilizing resources, because I said resources mobilization is not only fundraising. There are a lot of things we need as an institution. The right talent is also an example of resource. So we talk of resource sharing as an example of resource mobilization. Any question before we move to crowdfunding? Any question, any contribution?
Right, Irene, I think you can read the chat. We have some contributions in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they were just comments. That is how come so this is from Febson. He said, as academicians, we indeed need to cultivate a mindset change in order to work towards the mobilization of resources. Again, to achieve this, we need a leadership that is innovative, transparent, and ready to motivate the staff to take. So Vani has her hand up. Vani, please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Or contribution. Yes.
It's just an added comment.
Yeah.
I like the way you, how shall we say, address this very nice issue, because if as academics we now just step aside and look through the window, you've noticed a paradigm shift in our duties, our responsibilities, and our creation of knowledge. And I think in that respect, we all need, especially people who are working in this area, need to pat yourself on the back, because we don't get the, how shall we say, recognition internally. But externally, if you noticed, many of us do get this a lot. And I must say, we've made significant inroads as academics to adapt to the paradigm shift in the way the new technologies, the new teaching and learning atmosphere, and the new university atmosphere has changed us. And the fact that we have an embracive spirit as teachers, it's very commendable, ma'am. I find that very inspiring to be here amongst you guys, because as a teacher, I know I'm doing something impressive. Not just because to tap myself on the back, but I recognize it so much in the people I work with. And like even the people who are sitting here sacrificing their hours, but it's meaningful, it's learning, and it embraces another sort of culture. As academics, we sometimes fall short in terms of being appreciated. Like I have doctors in my family, real medical doctors who poke people. And everybody says, this is a real doctor. My PhD is like, it's just written. But I love them. I don't mind, But the idea is we really undervalued as a people. And I like this type of forum where we can say, hey, you know what? Being an academic. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Happy. Now, let us look at crowdfunding. It is also, I shared it with one group and they've started doing that. Maybe you can also try also. It is common in the US. When we are looking at the traditional way of funding, you get large amounts from one source or few sources. But with crowdfunding, you are looking at small sums of money from a large group of people. So we have the one that is donation-based. I don't know in your country, in Ghana, when someone is sick and needs money, once in a while they will say, this person needs money for this. Can you contribute? And you get a large number of people contributing. And we also have, so for instance, Rani, you were talking about student startups. And my university is planning to do something similar to what you are doing. The university will invest, if it is a good idea, the university will invest in the business and when as equity so that they share in the profit. But with us at a point when the business grows, then we just leave the business for the students. So with the crowdfunding, you have two models, one that is donation based, they just donate, and one in businesses. And we know that most of our institutions, we have entrepreneurship, we have incubation, and we can use some of these sources of funds to be able to fund some of the activities we have in our institution. These are just examples of some of the type you'll be able to get. There are quite a number of them, plenty of them. In the US, if you go to the US, it is common. For instance, you can see one here, Cancer Research UK, and all these platforms are used to be able to raise money to fund something a university is doing. One of the university's mandate is community engagement. So, for instance, a community needs a borehole or they need water, they can decide to use crowdfunding to be able to do that. Mandisa, your hand is up. I'll pause here for you to make your submission. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please, you can make your suggestion, contribution. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. So it took me a moment to... I was just wondering, what is your view with regards to, I mean, since we are speaking about sort of the funding context in higher education, and I'm just wondering, what is your view around the changing dynamics in higher education in terms of the funding model, and what this would probably mean for not just administrators, you know, in the bigger sense, but also for academics. So, meaning even the very fraternity, where I see internationally there has been a move actually in the last so many years, you know, where there has been a move of an expectation that your role would not just be, but you are expected as an academic to raise a certain level of, shall we call it, third stream income. And I think in the South African context, I'm not sure generally in the continent, but in the South African context, I don't think that has been to a large extent. And I'm just wondering if, you know, in the horizon, is this not something that we see coming? And that is not as a sole responsibility versus that have the sole mandate. What's your take on that? Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much. You remember when we started, we indicated that especially the public funded institutions, if the government was to give us everything, I don't think we'll even be worrying ourselves to talk about this resource mobilization. But for instance, in my country, previously we had, I think there were initially 3 public universities, and now we have more than 8. And I know the government may even add more. So universities are expanding, there are more universities. And of course, you see, as academics, we are supposed to do research. But as we go along, we'll also say that now we are even looking at the commercialization of research. So it is not only research that generates knowledge, but we are also looking at the way we can use our research to generate income for the university, because most universities have realized that if they don't look for other sources of generating income, they will not be able to fulfill the 3 core mandates. That is teaching, research, and extension services. Let me give you an example. For instance, we have COVID-19. So now institutions are expected to teach online. In some universities, I had the opportunity, I'm a visiting professor for a university in Germany. So I was there, then COVID-19, now I'm here, but I teach them online. But because they have the resources, they buy the Zoom link in bulk. So what I do is I just have to go, and they've sent me the link. Immediately I click, I'm the host, I teach, and I go, I do my breakout sessions. Anything I want to do on Zoom, I do. But when I come to my university, departments are expected to buy the Zoom link themselves. So imagine if that department hasn't got money. And at the end of the day, yes, the university is supposed to be also constrained with resources. So it means that everybody should contribute, because if you also want to make, if you say, okay, it is the government's response, at the end of the day, of course, you may not be able to teach the students the way you want to teach, you may not get the resources. And I don't think, if you want to fulfill your social responsibility, you'll be happy doing that. You want to give off the best. And therefore, at a point, you sit down and you tell yourself, I should be able to contribute to the process. To tell you the truth, sometimes I sit down as an academic and I ask myself, why do I have to worry myself and go through all this, bringing projects and getting whatever, and at the end of the day, I have to publish to get promoted, and I'm not getting the actual time to be able to do that. But on the other hand, I ask myself, yes, I'm not only an academic, I should also be able to make an impact. within the community within which I live. So then it means that I should go the extra mile. So yes, it is a lot of work, but now there is a paradigm shift because the society is asking for more from our universities. So for instance, Vani was saying they are even expected to come up with what? Impact, research that will impact on the community. And if we want to be able to do all those things, then we need resources to be able to do that. And if we are not getting it, we have to academics, administrators, and remember, even with us academics, we are the people who become vice chancellors, the deans, the heads of department, the directors. And in those positions, you are expected to also mobilize resources. So you may not only teach for now. At a point, you may be someone in charge of a unit or a department or a faculty, and you are expected. So it is not top management alone. Because if you leave top management, they cannot do everything. Everybody needs to support. I don't know whether I was able to, I've been able to address your question. Is the internet on?
Prof, I think he commented in the chat and said thank you very much. And
okay.
So I think he's okay. Yes.
Okay. So I'll move on because of time. So these are some of the platforms. After the discussions, you can go and look at them. And you sit down, so you create a page, you spread the word, you collect your donation. You can when you get the opportunity, you can go back, take your time, look at some of these crowdfunding models we have. I wanted us to do another activity. We can't do that because of time. So I'll just go through minutes to time. So I won't rush through. I'll take my time and go through. Then if we have any question or any
Prof, kindly check your earphones. It seems your speaker it's not really working.
Yeah. I'm sure she has a technical challenge. Let's give her some few minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes, Prof. Thank you.
I have removed my relationship with industry. Building that relationship is good, but I think universities will have to change the way in which we do things. Because in their relationship, for instance, when they come to universities, we don't have adequate legal provisions. We don't have even good business negotiation and marketing skills. Universities will have to develop that so that if we want to partner with industry and see it more in a fruitful way, there is a need for us to work on them. And when you work with industry, they don't go for meetings and they are looking for a and a comma. And we can argue about how a sentence will have to be for 1 hour, 2 hours. They don't have time for that. They really want to get results. So if we want to be able to partner and strengthen our relationship with industry and get what we are expected to get, there is a need for us to have adequate legal. We should develop our business, negotiation, and marketing skills. And if we do that, we'll be able to get a lot of resources from industry. So industry collaboration is one of them. Then, of course, let us look at individual donors. We are looking at mobilization. It can be faculty, staff, it can be students, it can be alumni. Then, of course, we have major donors, people outside the community, and members of the local community. Remember, we said even the traditional authorities where our universities are cited are examples of resources. But there is a need for us to cultivate them so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to get the best out of them. I asked this question. You can also, I'll give you the slides and answer some of the questions yourself. Do you have the possibility of obtaining donations from the public? Do you have a good relationship with your the community? If you have good relationship, sometimes I know traditional rulers who even will give the university land and say, I'm giving you land to expand. Land is a relationship with the community. It is based on that relationship that, of course, they will be able to give you the resources you need so that you can survive and grow. So these are just examples of giving. And that's 2016 data. I picked 2020 data, and 2016 it was around 390 billion, and in 2020 it was 449.64 billion. Sorry, it was 2019. So you can see that charitable giving donation, especially in the US, is moving. These are the most generous countries. In Africa, when we came to Africa, we look at Kenya too. That's 2017. Zambia, Ghana is there, South Africa is there, Nigeria is there. And Malawi is somewhere, South Sudan, Botswana is 93, Mozambique is 63, and Egypt is 108. So these are just information that shows you how people give to the community, and that will influence how the public or local community can also donate. It can be financial, or it can be because of their model. So most of their engineering building, all the buildings there were paid for by people in the US. So this is just an example, and what they do at the Alumni Center. Any question? Any question?
Out of because of I think it's more, I always call being an academic a very humble disposition, because we have to deal with lots of nuts, not just, I must say. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. So on that note, I'll say thank you to everybody. Hopefully next year, next time, we'll be able to do more and discuss more. So I just end with this quote. If you want 100 years of very, very, very important. So these are the references. And that's my contact details. Thank you. So Kwesi, over to you, Kwesi.
Okay, good afternoon, Prof. Rosemond. This is not Dumo Dlamini here. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
This is not Dumo. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, we would like to thank you most sincerely for an engaging session. I think everyone agrees that it was absolutely amazing. Even though it was a Friday, but it had to stay. So it really shows that we had a high quality speaker. So thank you very much, Professor Rosemond Buhine. As I said, my names are not Dumodlamini, so I'm standing in for Kwesi, because he had to jump off to attend another meeting. We hope that this week has been useful for each and every one of you. We intended it to add value to those institutions that are members of the association. So we hope that for future workshops, we will even have a higher turnout from your universities that take advantage of these trainings. All the slides from Monday, Tuesday up to today will be shared with you by Wednesday. So if you registered and attended these sessions, you would have all the content. And I just wanted to ICT leadership and management development training was launched by the association 30 years ago. So this is not new training. We've been doing it over the years. The difference now is that it's the first time that we are delivering it via Zoom or online. Before, these trainings were delivered in a face-to-face delivery mode, and I would like to recognize the 3 staff members of AAU that have previously been involved in delivering such trainings, and these are Mr. Ransford Bekwe and Mrs. Yvette